imposed on corporations that receive taxpayer assistance in the bipartisan CARES Act, which passed the Senate 96-0.
Now, if Democrats are not able to reach a deal on a reconciliation bill, it's possible they turn to bipartisan alternatives on some of the issues they hope to address, like a fourth stimulus check and lower prescription prices. Now, everybody, with just 1 month remaining in the 2022 tax season, the IRS has delivered millions of refunds to taxpayers, a major influx of money to households that many Americans depend on. The tax collecting agency has said that it has issued more than 45 million refunds worth a collective $152 billion total. The average payment so far is worth $3,352, everybody, and that's a lot of cash. The latest filing statistics, everybody, come as the IRS warns of a challenging tax season for filers as the agency works through a massive backlog of unprocessed tax returns. But everybody, there are some steps that taxpayers can take in order to get their money back faster. Experts have urged taxpayers to file their tax returns as soon as possible, knowing that individuals do not need previous returns in order to submit their 2021 returns. Americans are encouraged to file electronically with direct deposit in order to avoid potential delays and receive the return within 21 days. So folks, I just hope that President Biden can get this job done and send out more stimulus checks this year. If you guys agree with me, tell me in the comments down below.
The First Amendment would prevent microchip companies from receiving taxpayer assistance unless they agree to issue warrants or equity stakes to the federal government. If private companies are going to benefit from over $53 billion in corporate welfare, the financial gains made by these companies must be shared with the American people, not just wealthy shareholders. In other words, all this amendment says is that if these companies want taxpayer assistance.
So as the crisis continues to impact millions of people, everybody, a large number of state governors are now taking immediate action to send out a new batch of stimulus checks. And this is definitely what we want to see, everybody. Payments of $500 will begin going out to all of them, to everybody that's been impacted by the crisis, which is some awesome news. It's also now possible for low and middle income households to receive a check worth up to $1,800. Folks, this is definitely what we want to hear. Stay tuned for more information on this. According to the Georgia Governor, Brian Kemp, he signed a law to send checks of up to $500 to state residents. The reason he said in his statement is to soften the impact of inflation on households, and also to return some of the money amid a record state budget surplus. 2 years ago, the crisis was forecast to decimate state budgets, but instead, many states are now enjoying a rebound in tax revenue due to economic recovery. Workers are regaining jobs, bolstering income taxes, while strong retail sales are boosting sales tax. From April 2021 to January 2022, total state tax revenue adjusted for inflation, it increased more than 90% compared to the same period a year earlier. So according to a recent Urban Institute report, these checks represent tax rebates that will put money back into consumers' pockets. But some other states are considering or already planning to cut income taxes, providing an ongoing tax break for their residents. So everybody, here's the news about the tax rebates and the tax cuts across party lines, with both Democrats and Republicans joining in on the proposals. In Maine, the governor wants to send checks of up to $850 to each resident to offset inflation, including high gas prices, representing one of the more generous offers on the board. The rebate will help Maine people grapple with these increased costs. by putting money directly back into their pockets. And the rebate checks, everybody, are not likely to cover the increased costs that most Americans are facing, since states are typically proposing checks of several $100s. While the average family will pay an estimated $2,000 in additional costs this year due to higher price of gas alone. This is why many lawmakers in Congress are continuing to push for monthly relief checks. A new report also shows that close to 4 million more children are living in poverty, 2 months after the pause of the expanded child tax credit. And let's not forget that back in June of 2021, the White House said that child tax credit sign-up would help provide children a lifeline out of poverty. 22. During a recent press briefing, Brian Deese, director of the National Economic Council, said the child tax credit aspect of the Build Back Better was one of the bigger reasons why the Biden administration wanted to make sure it was passed before the end of the year. The House of Representatives passed the package in November, but it's currently still being negotiated on in the Senate. An extension of the child tax credit, which would mean more direct payments for families this year, I know millions of people can actually use an extra stimulus check right now, so I'd like to see the Build Back Better relief bill passed sooner than later. The Build Back Better Act takes the direct payments one step further than the American Rescue Plan. It's a better stimulus check, everybody. Instead of receiving half the credit in monthly payments and half after a person files their taxes, the Build Back Better Act will allow people to receive the full credit in monthly payments. The Build Back Better would also extend the increase on the child tax credit amount. The American Rescue Plan increased payments from $2,000 per child to $3,600 for eligible children under the age of 6, and $3,000 for children between 6 and 17. With the increase in the child tax credit amount, parents have been receiving monthly payments of $300 for children under 6 and $250 for all other eligible children. But there are many Americans that also say a fourth round of stimulus should go out to all people. Biden has been pushing for Congress to extend this child tax credit for months now, saying in a speech to hardworking people who pay taxes deserve a break. Many Biden administration officials acknowledge the goal is to make the expanded child tax credit permanent, but the initial plan was to extend it for years. In his remarks, Biden called the expanded child tax credit transformative and the right and smart thing to do. One White House official said, "We are confident we'll get the Build Back Better passed. Extending the child tax credit is one of the main reasons we need to do it now."
In other words, every member of the U.S. Senate has already voted for the conditions that are in my amendment. Further, the CARES Act was not the first time that Congress passed warrants and equity stakes tied to government assistance. During the 2008 financial crisis, Congress required all companies taking TARP funds to issue warrants and equity stakes to the federal government. In addition, this amendment would also require these highly profitable companies not to buy back their own stocks, not to outsource American jobs, not to repeal existing collective bargaining agreements, and to remain neutral in any union organizing effort. Again, this is not a radical idea. All of these conditions were imposed on companies that received funding from the CARES Act and passed the Senate by a 96-0 vote. A second amendment that I have introduced would simply eliminate the $10 billion bailout for Jeff Bezos to fly to the moon. If Mr. Bezos wants to go to the moon, good for him. He has $186 billion in personal wealth. He became $81 billion richer during the pandemic. He is the second wealthiest person in America. And in a given year, Mr. Bezos